It is still Wednesday, August 28th. This vlog is in continuation of the previous episode. I've been reading and I've decided to pick up 2 more books at the library. I started sampling a memoir on Google called The Education of an Idealist by Samantha Power, and man, it had me crying by chapter 3. She balances well the stories surrounding loss and grief so far. So I get the impression that this isn't going to be an overly depressive or sad memoir. I am very curious about Samantha Powers' story, so my library has a copy of her book and I'm gonna go and pick it up. Between this book and the other book that I'm going to pick up, I think those are gonna be some great transitional reads for me. I am 82% through of my last ebook in my current reads. I am thinking I might be able to finish that tonight or at least by tomorrow. The other 2 books in my current reads are physical copy books, and I am over halfway through on each of those. I'm thinking I'm gonna read those as palate cleanser books, so I'm not gonna plow through them to finish them. I'm going to pick them up and read them when I feel like I need a little vibe reset. My palate cleanser books, The Way Beneath, and An Uncommon Story. I do have 3 other books that I am intentionally reading slowly, so I'm not planning on finishing them anytime soon, so I don't really consider them part of my current read stack. These 3 books are poetry books and a collection of short stories. Hopefully by the time I finish my transitional reads, I will be in a really good place health-wise to dive into my book haul books I have been just dying to read. So far, I am really leaning toward starting with The Divine Comedy. And then I think it's gonna be a tie between Don Quixote and Moby Dick. I might do Don Quixote after The Divine Comedy. This is just me musing about the order of the books I think I'll be reading. We shall see if that prediction pans out. But I really do sincerely contemplate the order in which I read my books, because if I don't do that, then I really derail myself in my reading experience. For example, reading Resurrection by Tolstoy immediately after Anna Karenina, I would not advise. Reading anything after the Brothers Karamazov, I could not read anything else, like no other book after reading Brothers Karamazov for like a month. Granted, I did read The Idiot by Dostoevsky shortly thereafter, but had I read it any closer to when I finished The Brothers Karamazov, I don't think I could have done it. Then I read Oblomov and I tried to go back to regular literature, and I could not do it for a while. So there is a good reason why I put so much intention behind the order of my book reading. I am back with my library haul. I finished chapter 8. Finished chapter 4 of The Priory of the Orange Tree. It's a little before midnight and I have finished Resurrection by Paul Selig. Coffee, page 57, and some thoughts. I have my phone propped up on my massive stack of books on my desk. Okay, so I want to talk about The Priory of the Orange Tree. I picked it up because it got so many high reviews, raving reviews on Goodreads, and it seems to be just a book that I keep hearing about quite a lot, and it's entertaining, but I don't know that I'm really looking for entertainment. I think I'm looking for something that gives me something to think about, and I am super impressed with the length of this book. It is like 800 pages. Yeah. But it's kind of just looking like it's like 2 books kind of brought together by the storyline of one particular individual who travels. So I'm not sure if I really want to invest into this book. The tone in which the story is being written so far seems very one-dimensional. You have quite a repetition throughout, 50 plus pages of shortened sentences with descriptors, and it's this same pattern throughout. I understand that can be a rhythm that a lot of authors use to create buildup, but it does not make for an interesting read from a musical standpoint. I tend to hear the words now more than I see them, and you know, when you hear an interesting song, for example, there's a lot of variety and fluctuation within it, and I'm not really seeing that more than 50 pages in. So it's kind of like really dragging on for me. The sentences are easy to read, and there isn't really much that requires too much cerebral processing. So it's pretty straightforward. It's not difficult to read. But between the fairly straightforwardness of the sentences, descriptors, and dialogue, I am kind of bored. Again, no hate on the author. I think it's so impressive to be able to write like this, just from a discipline standpoint, a craft standpoint, and the imagination that one has to have to come up with all these kinds of details and nuances, and the knowledge base that the author has to have. Like, I'm so impressed by that, but I don't know that I really want to invest into this book. I think what I've learned about myself as I've been reading more regularly and consistently, I prefer books that give me insight and that show high levels of perceptivity in the characters' thinking and philosophy. One popular long-form book that I think really captures that, let me find it really quick. I heard about this book a lot too, and I finally caved and picked it up. The Goldfinch. This one caught me by surprise because of how incredibly perceptive it actually is. I really do think that Donna Tartt successfully combined the styles of Dickens and the Russian greats, and honestly, it's an impressive book. Did I become a Donna Tartt fan afterward? Yes. Love The Goldfinch, and I enjoyed The Secret History. This bookmark is from my second go around. I did try to read her other book. I forget what it's called. Little Lies, I think. Don't quote me. But that one was written in third person point of view, and I think she does just really well with first person, so I didn't really get into that, but maybe I will next year. Anyways, in terms of popular modern works, that's more my flavor, and you know, I think I'm just talking myself into DNFing this book already. I want to give it a chance, but 50 pages in, if I'm already like struggling to stay interested from a stylistic standpoint, I just don't think I'm going to enjoy it much more. And I really do want to be more efficient about my DNFs so that I can really invest in the books that are for me. So these are my current reads. I'm going to dive into Rebecca next. For this session, I wrote 199 words. That is a wrap for day 69 of my modified 90-day novel writing challenge on Thursday, August 29th. Today is Friday, August 30th, day 70 of my challenge. I have written 27 words for the session. Good morning. It is Saturday, August 31st, day 71. It is 5:05 a.m. I have been up since 4:30. I woke up just all of a sudden, and I went to bed super early last night because I was really exhausted yesterday. I have my tea. Anyways, I woke up naturally at 4:30. I feel like I slept decently, and now I'm sipping my tea, and I am going to jump into my writing session. For this session, I'm at 74 words, and then I totaled the word count for the month, and for August, I have written 5,426 words. I made a trend graph to visualize my word count. I am still contemplating what the graph is telling me. August was a very rough month with heavy social activities and with being sick. I've been reading from Rebecca, and I've decided to read this slowly. I finished chapter 3, and I'm already kind of I'm already kind of obsessed with it. It is romantic, reminding me of the vibes I felt when reading Pride and Prejudice. And by romantic, I don't mean the modern conception of romance. Romantic for me is more of a pacing and a sensitivity that's present in the characters, in how the author writes. So the romance that I go for really resembles poetry, and it makes me feel like I'm reading poetry. A little backstory on this book. I actually put this on my TBR last year, and now I'm finally getting around to it. And 3 short chapters in, I have a really good feeling. What you doing? I said, what you doing? I'm just hanging out. What are you doing? We're just hanging out. My husband is playing Skyrim, as per usual. Where to next?
I don't know. Let's see. Let's go here.
Ooh.
I guess after level 80, I don't know, you just stop leveling up. You can still like level up your, I guess, other skill trees that you haven't leveled up yet, but your actual level cap stops at level 80.
Ooh. I've enjoyed this hour with you more than I've enjoyed anything for a very long time. You've taken me out of myself, out of despondency and introspection, both of which have been my devils for a year. Excuse me, what? That was so good. What hound of heaven had driven him to the high hills this afternoon? I love a line of alliteration, well placed. I am just absolutely loving my experience reading this so far. And I love that the weather is cooperating with this moody vibe. I'm gonna say it. This is poetry to me. This is poetic writing. Daphne du Maurier is a poet. The way that her sentences flow just absolutely seamlessly from one to the next. This is what I aspire for in my writing. Other great authors who write in this seamless style, Dickens, H.P. Lovecraft, it's almost as if the sentences read themselves. It is very fluid, so beautiful. I am just absolutely smitten. I wished he were less remote, and I anything but the creature that I was in my shabby coat and skirt, my broad-brimmed schoolgirl hat. The subtle rhyme in that line. I am just so delighted with this so far. The sulky waiter brought my tea, and while I ate bread and butter dull as sawdust, I thought of the pathway through the valley he had described to me this afternoon, the smell of the azaleas and the white shingle of the bay. If he loved it all so much, why did he seek the superficial froth of Monte Carlo? Dull as sawdust, sulky waiter, superficial froth of Monte Carlo? Oh my gosh, it's so good. I need to stop before I read this whole book out loud. I am glad it cannot happen twice. The fever of first love. That's the first line of chapter 5. And okay, I'm going to end this vlog here. I am very, very into Rebecca, and I will keep you posted in the next episode.